Alright guys, so in the last video we set up our OAuth credentials for Google. Now we're going to install Passport and we're going to install the Google OAuth module as well. So let's go down here, we'll go ahead and clear this out. Let's do an npm install -- save, and we want to install Passport, and then we want to install Passport - Google OAuth. What is it? OAuth 20. Okay, so it should look just like that. Let's go ahead and run that to make sure it got added to our package.json file, which it did. So now what do we want to do? Now we're going to want to have some routes for auth. Okay, now the main route to log in with Google or authenticate is going to be /auth/Google. All right, so we could do app.get auth/Google inside of our app.js, but let's skip all that and let's go right to using the express router, okay, just like we learned in the last project. So what we'll do is create a folder in here called routes, and we're going to create a new file called auth.js. okay, so this is going to be our auth route. So we're going to bring in express. So say require express, and then we need to initialize the router. So we'll say const router equals express.router, and then we just need to export the router. Okay, and then we can create our routes. So we'll say router.get. And we're going to want that route that I just showed you, auth/Google. Now, since this is in the auth route file, all we have to do right here is say /Google. Okay, and it's still going to be talking about auth/Google. So let's see, we're going to put in our callback here, and we'll put in a request and response. And for now, we're just going to say res.send auth. All right, and then let's go into our app.js, and we want to set this route up, or not set it up, but we want to link to it. So let's go right, let's see, where do we want to put this? We'll just go right here and say load routes. Okay, we're going to have a few of them later on, but let's say const auth, and we'll set that to require, and that's going to be in ./routes/auth. Okay, so that's loading the file. Now to actually use the route, let's go down to the bottom here. We'll go right above the port, and we're going to say app.use, and we're going to say anything that goes to /auth is going to go to the auth route. All right, so we'll save that, and let's run nodemon, and we'll check it out. We'll go to auth/Google, and we just get auth. Okay, so we know that that route is connected. So now what we want to do is implement our strategy, and you're going to see a lot of similarities with what we did in the last project with the local strategy. We're going to go in our config and create a new file called passport.js. All right. So inside here we want to define our strategy, which is going to be Google strategy. We're going to set that to require. Okay, remember we did local strategy, require passport local. Now we're going to do require passport - Google auth 20, and then we're going to do .strategy. Okay. We're also going to need Mongoose here. We're not using it just yet, but we'll bring it in. All right, now we also want to bring in our keys. So our keys file, which is going to be require. It's also in the config file, so we just do ./keys. Okay. So now we want to wrap this in module.exports equals function, and then this function is going to take in the passport module. Okay. So this is all identical to the last project, except we're not using a local strategy. We're using Google. All right, so you can see that you can add multiple strategies to the same application if you want as well. So what do we want to do now? We need to basically require this file in our app.js. So let's go into app.js, and let's go right. Let's see, we'll go right above the routes here. We'll say passport config. And we're going to say require. Require. It's going to be ./config/passport. All right, and then we immediately want to pass in passport, okay, which we have to require up here. All right. So that should load that. Let's go ahead and save it. We're getting an error, cannot find module passport Google auth. And let's see, the reason for that is because it's not auth, it's OAuth. So right here, this should be OAuth, not 0, OAuth. All right, so we'll save, and now we don't have any errors. All right. So now we want to define the strategy here. We want to say passport.use. All right, we're going to want to use new Google strategy, and in here it takes in an object. And if we look at the documentation here, this is what we're doing. We're saying new Google strategy, and we want to pass in our ID, secret, and also the callback. So let's go and let's put in client ID, and we can get that from our keys file now because we brought that in. So we'll say keys.google client ID. Let's put in our client secret, and that's going to be keys.google client secret. And then we also want the callback. So the callback will be a string, and it's going to be /auth/google/callback. Now there's one more option I'm going to add here, and that's proxy, and I'm going to set that to true. Now the reason I'm doing that is because later on when we deploy our application, Heroku is going to try to load it with HTTPS. And unless we put this proxy true here, it's going to throw us an error, and it's not going to be able to work on our remote server. So we're going to make sure that we put proxy true here, which will fix that. All right, so we have our strategy. Now we're going to put right here as a second parameter, we're going to put a callback or an arrow function. And then this is going to give us back a few things. It's going to give us an access token. It's going to give us a refresh token. It's going to give us the profile information and then the done callback. Okay, remember done from the last project when we did the local strategy? Same idea. Now all I want to do right now is just go ahead and say console.log. I want to log the access token. And then we'll go ahead and we'll log the profile. All right, and we'll save that. So now what we want to do is go back to our route, our auth route, and we want to bring in passport. Okay, and then we're going to go into this this is actually auth/Google, and instead of doing it like this, let's see, actually, you know what, let's just go like that. And then the second parameter here is going to be passport.authenticate. okay, just like it was in the last project, except we're not using local. Remember last time we did local, now we're using Google, okay, and it knows the strategy's name is Google. It knows that automatically. And then we need to pass in another parameter, which is going to be the scope. So this is going to be the permissions that it's going to ask the user to share. So this goes in an array, and all we're going to ask to share is the profile, which will be like the name, the avatar, things like that. And then we also want to share, we also want the email address. All right, so that's the scope of what we want to request from the user when they authenticate. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So let's just see what happens at this point. Okay, I'm actually curious. I don't know what's going to happen just yet. So let's go to auth/Google. Okay, so invalid request, missing required parameter, redirect URI. And I think the reason for that is because if we go to Passport.js, I just put callback. This should actually be callback URL. So let's save that, and let's go back and let's try that again. So we're going to say /auth/Google, and then we can access our. Now I have multiple email accounts, so if you have multiple accounts, you're going to be asked for one. This is the one I'm signed into. This is basically my dev account that I don't really care about. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that, and then what it's going to do is it's going to bring us back. It's going to look for auth Google callback because that's what we specified in the console, okay? And we don't have that set in our auth. You can see we don't have that callback set. Now, what's important to note is that we have this code inside the URL, and this is very important. This is what's going to allow us to get our access token and all that stuff. But in order for this to work, we need to create this callback route inside of our application. So that's what we're going to do in the next video.